Hello and good morning. Welcome to Morning Java here on DKPittsburghSports.com. I'm Chris Carter, NFL analyst, here with Matt Grubba, our Pitt beat writer. On the beat, Matt, we're going to talk about, well, everyone's looking at March Madness. Pitt is not, because Pitt has some other issues to work about. Everyone knows Kevin Stallings is out, but you've been on the beat for just about a week or so now, and the coaching search is on. What can you tell us has been going on?
Well, it's been a pretty busy day in terms of getting a lot of no comments from from coaches. Today was the media day over at PPG Paints Arena ahead of tomorrow's games, or what will be today's games. Danny Hurley from Rhode Island, Tim Cluess from Iona, both coaches whose names have come up in the search. Both of them, being very realistic about it. They're acknowledging that, yeah, they've heard the rumors, they know their names are in it, but they're both obviously focused on their own team, their games coming up right now. And then on top of that, ESPN reported today through their sources that Tom Crean, who's been working as an ESPN analyst, former Marquette and Indiana coach, has already been in touch with representatives from Pitt, that they met Tuesday. No real details about the meeting, but so the search is picking up pretty quick now.
Yeah, it seems like Pitt seems to be kicking in a high gear. Is it possible that a guy like Tom Crean can come to Pittsburgh? Because that kind of a name has been associated with, big teams that have made serious pushes through the tournament, and it just seemed like for all this time that Pitt can't go get those guys.
Well, I mean, Pitt certainly probably has less than fond memories of Tom Crean and his Dwayne Wade team at Marquette knocking them out.
Listen, man, I did a whole "don't get me started" about that tournament. They're the reason I'm still a fan of Dwayne Wade, but it just broke my heart when Brandon Knight didn't get to go.
Well, but Tom Crean, apart from that, has more. He has more history with Pitt.
Really?
Because he was an assistant with the Panthers back in, I think it was the 1994-95 season. So he's been here. That, of course, back in the Fieldhouse days. It's ancient history compared to where Pitt is now, or at least where they were a few years ago. But that's the kind of name that if Pitt can go out and get someone like that, is sort of going to win the room back quickly after a lot of disgruntled fans from Kevin Stallings.
And not just disgruntled fans, but also scaring away. Why would a recruit ever come here? Because they're going to be losing. They're not going to be in the environment is horrible now. What used to be the zoo is now just an empty several rows of seats. But now, if Tom Crean is in your eyes, last question before we move on, is Crean enough of a name that would rejuvenate this program, both in the eyes of the fans and in the eyes of maybe some high school players that would say, hey, I want to go play for that guy?
Yeah, he certainly has a big enough name to do that. And, I mean, honestly, the other guys that are in town, maybe not so much Tim Cluess, but Danny Hurley from Rhode Island with the last name, the connections he has to New York, New Jersey recruiting, which is, obviously where Brandon Knight and so many great Pitt players have come from that area. Those connections, even he would be a name that I think really, can rejuvenate. And Pitt always has the added thing, they're playing in the ACC. You can always recruit kids that want to go up against Duke, North Carolina, twice a year sometimes. So I think that the recruiting aspect of it won't be a problem.
Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Grubba is on the case. Now, Matt, in my territory, the Steelers, there's been plenty of news coming from yesterday. The exodus of the secondary that has happened. We all knew that William Gay was going to be gone. That was announced already. It was a foregone conclusion that Mike Mitchell would be gone. Both of them alone would free up around $6 to $7 million of cap space. But what caught a lot of people off guard was the late release of backup safety Robert Golden, a special teams captain for this Steelers team. It really seems like the Steelers are trying to purge their secondary players that they know they can't count on, and they're looking to reload in this department.
Yeah, and I had a chance a couple days ago. We were doing Java alongside Dale Lally, who's our Steelers writer, and I think in his reporting, Steelers clear up about $9.5 million in cap space with the three moves. But these were moves that were anticipated. It's what turning it over to the young guys, at the safety position, Davis, Wilcox, the possibility of bringing somebody else in, now is a real distinct possibility.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way. And when you take out a Robert Golden, I mean, the guy wasn't ever proficient at safety. And it was tough to even call him adequate in most times when you saw him playing that free safety role. He was just so small and not that fast. But he knew where he was supposed to be, and you felt like maybe he could fit his way in there somehow. Now the Steelers are saying, forget it, we're going all out. Maybe Cameron Sutton, everyone's talking about him coming to the secondary, but it's kind of there's kind of a little bit of a swan song there for William Gay. Back in 2015, many people don't know, he didn't give up a single touchdown in the regular season. The only touchdown he gave up all year was a play in which A.J. Green in the playoffs jumped on a false start, and then when William Gay thought the play wasn't going on, ran right behind him and scored a touchdown. William Gay's had its ups and downs with the team. Everyone remembers when he got torched along with the rest of the Steelers secondary against Aaron Rodgers in Super Bowl 45. But he came back to the Steelers under Carnell Lake, remade himself, and really became a staple of the secondary for a long time. So, I don't know about you, but it's totally understood, but it's just like a little bit of disappointment that you couldn't get more for William Gay in his time with the Steelers, because he was a loyal player.
Yeah, you said it yourself. He's identified with those Steelers Super Bowl teams. Him leaving, that leaves only Ben left from the last Super Bowl winning team.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of a clean break now. I think maybe it's something that the Steelers needed. You don't want to say a rebuild, because they're still going to go out and be playoff contenders next year, be in the mix. But there's a little bit of that rebuild going on specifically with the secondary,
right,
and also somewhat with the linebacker core too, when you think they're going to have to replace Shazier at least for a year.
So absolutely. And well, I'm sure when you say rebuild, the GM's like, no, we're not rebuilding.
Right.
We're reloading. Like we haven't heard this a million times. But yeah, I do completely agree. I think I agree with the philosophy. It's like, you know what? We need to get faster guys in here that can cover, that can run with receivers, make plays on the ball. They need X factor type of guys. I do think that despite all the talk about inside linebackers, they're going to go get themselves a playmaking safety either in this draft or in free agency or via trade. And I think that because they know that if they complete the secondary of Hayden, Burns, Davis, and some X factor type of guy, they are at a different level when it comes to defending the pass.
For sure.
So Matt, what's going on in the rest of the NFL is pure and utter madness. While the Steelers are just cutting people and trying to figure out what smart plays here, everybody's grabbing people. I talked about this with Dale Lawley yesterday on Morning Java, and it just continued today. But what's really making news is less the signings, but more so the cuts of what's going on and the retirements technically. Well, leading off, of course, Joe Thomas, super all-pro offensive tackle for the Browns for a long time. He announced his retirement. I think he tore his what you call it?
Biceps.
He tore his biceps. That's right. He tore his biceps muscle during the season. He's been up there in age. He didn't miss a game his entire career until that injury. It just made sense. It's like, you know what? He's put a lot into that organization. It's okay for him to hang it up, even though they're making all the moves right now.
Yeah, not only didn't miss a game, he was a guy who didn't miss a play.
You're right. A single play.
What was it? Something like 11,000 offensive snaps for the team. That's a streak to be. Even in Pittsburgh, you have to tip your cap to a guy that went up against the Steelers twice a year and was always, just a terrific player and always seemed to be a pretty class guy off the field.
Yeah, never saw any problems with Joe Thomas. So definitely a lot of respect for that guy. And he's gone at it with Joey Porter and James Harrison and all these guys over the years. But moving forward, guys that are shaking up the market right now, the Honey Badger from the Cardinals, Tyrann Mathieu, he got cut because he wanted more money from the Cardinals. They were like, we want to give you a pay cut. He said no. So he's now on the open market, and that changes a lot with the safety market. There were players like Trey Boston that people knew were going to be out there. But now this guy's out there, and everyone's saying, of course, the Steelers got to find a way to go get him. But I know he's just a 5'9" safety, but this is the kind of playmaker that a lot of teams are going to be grabbing for.
Yeah, and we saw on Twitter today, Cam Hayward just sending a little message to Tyrann Mathieu saying, hey, don't forget about us.
Right,
maybe doing a little recruiting work. But, it is tough to see how with the Steelers cap constraints, with the Le'Veon Bell situation, that how they would be able to fit a guy because – he is going to drive up the market for safeties, and, it might not be just what he signs for, but, teams that are in need of a safety are going to maybe have to overpay to make sure they get their guy now just because, the high end is now way up there.
Is now much higher, and that's what you're seeing. You saw with Hitchens as an inside linebacker signing with the Chiefs at $9 million, and, for everyone that said, we talked about yesterday on the show. Of course, these are filmed the day before. A lot of people don't know that sometimes. Avery Williamson who was the guy from the Titans that was in free agency at inside linebacker. When we filmed the show yesterday, he was not. He was still out there, and then by nightfall, he was a New York Jet. And a lot of people have been talking about, whether is it worth it to keep Bell when you're passing up on guys like him? My stance is this: there's a reason that Avery Williamson was a free agent this year, and it's not because they couldn't afford to keep a superstar player around. It's because he's a decent player, but he's a role player, and he's a role player that stops the run. They have that in Vince Williams. He's not a cover linebacker, and that's what the Steelers really need. And he wouldn't have been that person that would have fit into the system. And I know the Jets also got Dion Lewis, which is another story.
Well, you bring up a good point, is the fit factor. And, the Steelers run such a unique scheme to the rest of the league that, it's not playing Madden. It's not grabbing the best available player, best overall
just plug
rating.
them in there, and they're going to figure it out.
Yeah, plug them in. The Steelers, have done this for a long time. They want guys who fit their system best, and it might not be the highest priced guy. So, and other teams are in that situation too. So you have to really, temper your expectations that just splashing out money on the best player isn't going to happen here. And, some teams will do that. Steelers don't.
Yeah, and if anything, the Steelers have shown the track record of not having to be big spenders in free agency. Seems to be the plan that works out the best. And now it's time for What's in Your Cup, the segment where we take questions from you, the subscribers, and answer them here on the show. Matt, let's get into this.
All right.
Now, this is a fun one. This is from M. Slavanica. Sorry if I mispronounced the name. But your question was, what Pittsburgh sports complex has the best food and drinks? PNC Park, Heinz Field, PPG Paints, the Pete, or Highmark?
Okay, so we got all 5 choices
there.
there.
That's it. They went to every single one.
That's also kind of a loaded question, because I wonder if he's asking about the fan food or the media side. I'm gonna guess we're talking fan food.
Yeah, we got to be talking fan food.
I'm partial, I guess I'd have to say, to PPG.
Okay.
Big fan. I'm trying to think. Nakama has their stand in there.
Nakama did have a stand there for a long time.
That was always a plus. The yard, I've got a 9-year-old stepson out there who loves grilled cheese. So that's the variety there. I think good choices. I'm going to go PPG.
Yeah, I think that's a fair bet. I'm going to agree with you on PPG. PNC Park has some really good stands. Yeah. And I've been around there plenty of times just looking for stuff. But it's just like I think PPG has done a really good job honing and bringing in those brands that stick out. Like Blaze Pizza when they were out before LeBron got there. But yeah, they've done a really good job, I think, getting nice stapled restaurants to get a stand in there. And I mean, hey, PPG is going to be hosting March Madness. That's when there's going to be lots of people coming in there from all over the place. Checking out those restaurants.
And a good thing to point out about a lot of those stands too, local restaurants too, which is always a big plus. And that's not to say there's not great local places. Everybody knows you got Permanis at Heinz Field and Quaker Steak, places like that. But I think I'd have to give the nod to PPG on that, even if you have to get an RC Cola and not a Coke or a Pepsi.
That's a whole nother debate. But thank you for the question. We appreciate your time. From Matt Grubba and Chris Carter, everyone have a happy Thursday.